Hello, lifers. Welcome back to another episode of Live the Life podcast. As always, I am your host, Eric Aroca, and today we have a special treat. We have Principal Laura Haugvoll with us this afternoon, and so excited to talk with you.
I'm excited to be here.
This is going to be a great conversation. So,
Exciting.
let me give you guys a little bit of background. So, as most of you know out there, I have been substitute teaching for a little over a year now. This is actually my second year, and I love it. Um, and this was one of the schools that I was really interested in substitute teaching in last year because, remind me, Principal, is this your second year as a school or third?
This is our second year.
This is your
We
second
opened
year.
last year.
Yes. So I'm always interested to see how culture is built by administration at a brand new school. And I'm just going to tell you guys a little secret right now. It's been pretty amazing. It's been pretty awesome. And I can't say that about every either old school that's been
Mhm.
going for a long time or new school. So kudos to you and
Thank
your
you.
staff, everybody involved. You guys have done an amazing job. And so that's basically what our conversation is going to be about today is establishing school culture. As many of you out there in the world know, I am writing a book about how to establish um, school culture and how does that transition to classroom culture. So I've been able to get lots of really good material by substitute teaching here, and I'm really excited about it. So let's kick off this conversation, Doctor
I
Principal
wish.
Principal
Maybe one
Hogville.
day.
Tell us a little bit about how you got started in education. Take us a little bit of that. Take us through that journey that you've been through in education.
That was so long ago. So this is year 33 for me. I started out, I started out as a child wanting to be a teacher. I really can't remember ever wanting to do anything else. But my educational journey started in Sheldon ISD, I was in an intermediate school. I was a math and reading teacher. I did both. I actually went to school to be a math teacher, but found myself liking both content areas. So I started out teaching fifth and sixth grade, and then I taught almost every grade level, second grade through eighth grade, for about 14 years, and then discovered this wonderful school district, Lamar, and was hired on as an assistant principal. Served in that role for 8 years, and have been a principal ever since.
Wow,
Yeah,
that's a long time,
it's a long time.
and that's pretty brave of you to teach fifth and sixth grade.
I love teaching middle school. I really and truly, I thoroughly enjoyed teaching middle school. Didn't want to be an administrator in middle school because they do so much discipline, and I really wanted to be connected to the instruction.
Yeah, excellent. I love it. I love that. Wow, that's quite a ride. And by the way, we are at Melton Elementary here in Southeast Texas. Won't give you the district and all that sort of stuff and exact location, but that's where we are. Okay. It's a wonderful school. So, what inspired your approach to building school culture?
So a second ago, you said you're writing a book about culture and its impact on the from the building to the classroom.
Yeah.
I would say that it's a step further than that. It's from the building to the classroom to the instruction, because really and truly the culture has to be in place first.
Yes.
Kids have to want to be at your school, staff have to want to be at your school. So when I thought about starting a culture really from the ground up, because we opened last year, my drive was to make staff and students and parents, for that matter, when they walk in the door, I want them to feel like they have this is part of their family. Like, family is kind of the core of what we do. I want people to feel when they walk into the building that there's a sense of acceptance and home, and they're that comfortable that they want to show up here every single day.
Excellent. I love that. That's great. How would you define school culture in your own words? How do you define that?
I think culture is where your heart is. Um, the academics is where our heads are, but we have to have the hearts first. So
Yeah.
if your heart is in the job that you're doing, if your heart is in the way that you're teaching and how you're handling students. If the heart is in what you're doing to engage parents and engage the community, then that's where the culture starts, is in the heart. And then once you have all that, you can move on to the obviously the job we do here, which is educating kids.
Yeah. Well, you heard it here first. Culture starts in the heart. I think that sounds like a quote for the book. What do you
Oh, you
think?
can have it.
Okay. I got permission. It'll be in there for sure. Now, I love that. Culture is in the heart. I love that. That is great. Okay. How, because you're a brand new school,
Mhm.
think about last year and how did you get your staff on board with your vision, and maybe walk us through like maybe some of the challenges that you had in being able to share that vision with your staff and into the second year.
So I think it started as we were bringing people on board, and I really, my assistant principal and I, we worked really hard on the hiring part, and so when we were interviewing and choosing staff for this school, we knew we were going to be bringing people from many different places. We weren't in a position like some schools are where we had to absorb a certain amount of people from another campus. We were kind of in a unique situation that people were able to come from all over the place. So we were able to take people from other parts of the district, other districts, but we knew when we were bringing people on board, everybody was coming with a different set of
Yeah.
expectations. So we started in the hiring process and we asked questions that that led to choosing people that we already knew were going to be following that vision. We also kind of led with that, like this is what we stand for. We're choosing to build a family, and in order to be, we're gonna love like family. We're gonna fight like family. We're gonna be able to come back together after we fight like family, and we're going to make up, and we're gonna love each other again because that's what families do.
Yeah.
It's not going to be all beautiful. And then sometimes things are going to happen and you're going to decide this is probably not the family you want to be part of. And that's okay too, because we have a certain set of standards that we're going to follow. So when we brought people on board, um, we also invited, like, what are the best parts of the places that you came from? What kept you in schools where you stayed the longest? What kept you there? What was it? And it was always culture. It was always the climate of the organization. It was never how they taught math or how they taught reading. So once we had that, that was great. And then we just started, doing life together. And what we found is some people fit in and some people didn't, and that's okay. And so the ones that didn't work their way out.
Yeah.
But again, as we brought new people back on board, and I would have to say the second wave of teachers that I was able to bring in um, were probably even more in alignment with our vision here at Melton. And I think some of that is because then that eked out. So teachers on other campuses were like, okay, I know what they stand for. I want to be part of that. And so it made it even easier as we brought people in year 2, and it will be year 3, because word's out that
Yeah.
this is what we stand for. The community out here, they talk. And so they say, when you walk in Melton, this is what it feels like. And if people want to be on a campus that feels that way, then they start gravitating towards us.
Yeah. Excellent. I love that it started in the hiring process,
Mhm.
right? And I love that you said that I mean, essentially, you're bringing people in who believe in what you believe, who believe in your values, in what you were trying to create. Because I feel like so many times we just want to say, oh, well, this teacher has, 26 years
Mhm.
of teaching experience, so we have to hire that teacher because they're so experienced,
Mhm.
or this teacher won Teacher of the Year 3 times, and so we have to hire that teacher. When it really comes down to, it's not your experience, it's and that plays a role,
Mhm.
right? But
Sure.
what it really comes down to is, do you believe what we believe in? Do
Mhm.
you believe in what we are trying to build as a school and then into our community? So I love that you mentioned that. That just gives me goosebumps because every time I talk about culture in any organization, I try to harp on people all the time that just hire people that believe what you believe.
Right.
That's half the battle right there. If you get them to believe what you believe, and you can, you know and if they already believe what you believe, then that's even makes life even easier. And I love that you mentioned family too, and I think it's really interesting that you pointed out that families are messy, right? I
Yeah,
know,
yeah,
hey, my family is
yeah,
messy.
yeah. It
Me and my
happens.
siblings, it's messy. And so sometimes we say, we want to treat each other like family, or we want to be family, and we kind of put a really nice
We think it's all about love.
love and
Not
just
always.
and that it's always pleasant and happy and great, and it can be that, but there's also that messy part of it. But how great is it that we can work together to get through those challenges and still love each other, still support one another. So I love that you brought that up.
I think what happens is there's it if you treat each other like family, there's an element of trust. And that trust has to be part of the culture that we build here. I need teachers to not be afraid when I walk in the room. I need them to trust that when I come in, it is for best intentions. It is to see instructionally what's happening here, and is there something I can do to elevate or lend a hand. I need them to know that it is all about growing kids, and it's not about any kind of an environment where you feel uncomfortable, because typically you don't feel uncomfortable around your family because those are the people that you love and trust the most.
Yeah.
And I want people to feel that way.
Yeah, you kind of go to battle with those
Yeah.
people, right?
Yeah.
So you kind of have to have that trust with them. Excellent. So you mentioned challenges, and you mentioned the initial wave of hires that you made, and then there's that second wave, right? Because there were some people who came in and maybe were excited about teaching here, but it just wasn't a great fit, right? And I always often think how wonderful it is when just the individual realizes, hey, this isn't a good fit for me. Like,
Mhm.
I'm not in the right place. I need to move on. But sometimes, we don't realize that we're not in the right place. Somebody has to tell us we're not in the
Sometimes
right
it happens
place,
that way.
right? So I love that you said, hey, we've gone through a second wave of teachers, and we've really, paid attention to what their value system is, and do they want to be here, and are they here for the right reasons? So that's all good stuff. How do you handle challenges that have threatened your culture in these last 2 years? And is there maybe a story that you could share with us on how that has happened?
um, I think probably the biggest challenge, if I think about it, is battling social media, um, and battling social media in this community. It seems to be so prevalent in what we do every single day now, and it's so easy to be a keyboard warrior
Mm-hmm.
and to get behind a keyboard and say whatever you're feeling in the moment. And I really do try hard to take every single thing in perspective. The thing about being a parent is that as a parent, you are a champion for your child. That's not always rational thinking, though.
Correct.
And so I have to take into consideration that when we are changing what we're not changing necessarily, but we took the majority of our kids from Lindsay Elementary, right? Like 90%. They had their own culture, they had
Yeah.
their own standards, they had their own way of doing things.
Yeah.
We didn't open to be a mini Lindsay Elementary, we opened to be a Melton Elementary. So there are going to be things that we're going to do that are different. There are going to be things that aren't going to be exactly the same as how other campuses do it. And we met with some resistance just
Yeah.
because most people don't like change.
Yeah.
So, in dealing with those changes and then having to battle it through social media, I think that was probably the biggest challenge. But we just stay above board. We don't get in we stay out of the comments. And I let my teachers know, remember, the parent is advocating for their child the best way they know how. And you have to keep that at the forefront of everything, of every thought you have when you're feeling like you're having to explain yourself or work with a challenging parent. Remember what they're there for, and then if you can get that parent to help you to understand that y'all are on the same page together, then and same with us as an administration. If I can get a parent who is upset about some type of car rider situation, how we're doing something because it differs from what their experience is, I just have to I first of all listen and be open, and then um, just like stay above it. If I face challenges head on, and so rather than walk away or hide from or not just address them, get people in here and say, let's have a conversation, help me understand, because you helping me understand may help me understand something differently, and being open and listening.
Yeah. That is so great. That's such a great and really a healthy approach, right? I'm glad that you brought this experience up. So I asked the question hoping that you were going to go here
Ah,
because I didn't want to bring it up. So we live locally, like
mhm,
we just live down the street from your school.
mhm,
So we heard when we first moved here a couple of years ago, we heard, oh, there's a new school opening up, and we were excited, like to see it go up. My grandkids come here,
yeah.
right? And so shout out to Kai, Aroca, and Jade. Hello, it's Grandpa, Principal. Whoa.
Hello.
So we were all excited. We got to see the school go up, and we got to see its opening, and it was just there was an excitement in the air,
Mhm.
right? But there was also a little bit of I don't know, like uneasiness,
What are
like
we gonna get?
what are we gonna, do we really want to pull our kids away from Lindsay?
Mhm,
And like you said, Lindsay has its own way of doing things.
mhm,
They have their own culture, and it's a wonderful school. And it was interesting to me on social media or in social media how the parents reacted to, oh, my kid can no longer go to Lindsay Elementary, now they have to come to Melton,
mhm,
right? And we're not happy about it. And we saw all the comments,
mhm.
right? um, so it's been really interesting. Now, coming in here last year, I was like, what are these parents talking about? Like, what is the deal? Because I didn't experience anything but just warmth and just a welcoming. And it's not even welcoming. I can't even put my finger on what the right word is. And I can tell you, your front reception
Mhm.
um area, when I come in the morning, last year, this year, it doesn't matter. Whenever I would come in and I would sign in for the day, get my key and my roll, those ladies are just amazing. They are so friendly, and they put such a welcoming face to the school, right? Like to say the way that they treated me, I know that that's the way that the kids are being treated. I felt like this is the way that teachers and your staff is being treated, right? And that made me feel good. I was just thinking, well, that's not like none of those things that we've been talking about or people have been talking about on social media are actually happening. None of those
No.
things are actually true. But you got to get your frustrations out somehow. But
Well,
I
I think
love that
it's
you stay
fear of the
above the fray.
unknown. Fear of the unknown is, I think, part of what fuels a lot of people's fire. They make up a narrative, they make up a story about how things are going to be until things actually are.
Yeah,
And then you're like, oh,
yeah.
it's not like that.
Yeah, and so often we want things to just stay the same. We don't
Hmm.
want any change, but change is good for you,
Change is
right?
good.
Change builds character.
Yeah.
If everything always stayed the same, we would not grow
Right.
as individuals. So, hey, little change is good for the soul.
That's
That's great. Love this stuff. Love, love, love it.
right.
Let's see. What routines or rituals have made the biggest impact as you have created your culture here at Melton Elementary?
I think because we're dealing with an elementary population, we're establishing some foundations, right? And so, one of the things we wanted to make sure, and this kind of also goes back to some of the other, going back to the vision of our campus, we, one of the things that was very important to me that teachers needed to know before they came on board here, and people needed to know about me, is that my belief is that we do have a job to do here. And I understand the state of Texas, they judge us by test scores for third, fourth, and fifth graders. Period. Like that's how we get our rating, right? But that matters less to me. Not everybody likes to hear that, but that matters less to me than what walks out of the doors of Melton as a fifth grader. Because what's really, really just very important, and this goes back to that concept of family, because this is what a parent would want for their child. What is really important to me is that when children walk out of this door, they not only know if they're good readers, good writers, good mathematicians, good scientists, but they also know if they're a musician. They also know if they're an artist. They also know if they have any kind of athletic ability. They know what the uniqueness in them is going to help develop them into the person they're going to be one day. So, teachers who maybe were with us 1 year and then left, they may have left because they wanted the academic focus to be the strongest focus. And I want the, for lack of better words, whole child focus to be the strongest focus. And that's what's important to me. So I don't know where I was going with that with your question, but ask me your question again, because then I'll get back to where
Yeah,
I'll make the
just
connection.
the routines or
Okay.
rituals that have made the
So
biggest
part of
impact.
that has to do with how kids talk to themselves and what they say about themselves. And so one of the things that we wanted to do from the very beginning is make sure that students in this building knew when you walk out the doors of this campus, we expect you to be a leader in whatever capacity you can be a leader in. I'm not saying that everybody that walks out will be the president of the United States, but you're going to be the leader in whatever you're the leader in. And so we make them talk about it every day. We make them call themselves leaders every day. That our mantra is manta rays lead the way, every student every day. And they say that, and then they say how they're going to lead. We're building that vocabulary in them so that they know that when I'm a leader, leaders serve others. Leaders optimize their learning. Leaders accept responsibility for their decisions. They accept responsibility for their actions. They accept responsibility for whatever happens in their life. Nobody's going to do anything to you. You are in control of all the things that you do. So we're building those routines in them, helping them understand that their character is just as important to their development as their academic success.
Yeah, awesome. I love that. That is so good. That is some amazing stuff. Getting some really good material for the book.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
I mean,
So,
co-author.
just saying. Hey,
Mm.
hey, it's not out of the realm of possibilities. Yeah, that is wonderful. I think it's so important. Academics are important. Like, there's no doubt about it, right? It's important. It has its own place, but it's also building these lives, right? Helping to build and to mold these little people into becoming great citizens,
Mhm.
right? Because someday they're gonna graduate from Melton Elementary. They're gonna leave and go into, what is it, middle school. They
Mhm.
go to middle school. That's a whole new
It's a
world.
whole new world.
That's what I always
It's a
tell
whole
them.
new ball game.
It's a different world out there. Get ready, and you got to be a leader, right? Because if not, then you're gonna get caught up in
Mm-hmm. You gotta be able to
the
stand on your own 2 feet.
silliness and the things that happens at middle schools.
Yeah.
And so you got to be a leader. I love that. I think that's a fantastic approach too. How do you celebrate wins, and how do you go about boosting morale? Let's just talk about your staff, right? Your teachers, the rest of your admin staff, your leadership group. How do you go about celebrating those wins, and how do you go about boosting morale for all of them?
I think first of all, you have to constantly, and you have to have somebody on your staff who's really good at taking the temperature of what's going on. And when we talk about celebrating wins, it needs to be every win. It doesn't matter how big or how small. It can't just be the wins in student data. We just took a benchmark test today, for example, and yes, I can look at those scores and tell you we have a lot to celebrate, but that's not all the work that we do. When I see teachers that are successfully that have kids that are successfully being kind to each other in the hallway. I had there was an example the other day, and I was able to go to the teachers of this particular student and say, "Good job on whatever you're doing with him." That along with his parents, because it's a
Hmm.
community, right? But good job in whatever you're doing with him. That his response to me was this. But I had a student who was helping us put some things up. We do a reward system with points. We do squad points because our kids are all in squads, and we do these squad points. And we also, through our Innovative School Day program, have a little monetary manta ray box system where they can buy things in the store, in the Melton store. So the kids helped me and helped me and helped me, and then they were about to go back, and I was like, "Hey, what would y'all like for this? Would you like Melton bucks or do you want squad points?" And this one particular student who isn't always making good choices said, "We're helping to help. We're just helping because you asked us to help. We don't need anything for helping." And I was so impressed. And so we went right back and we did a little celebrate. I mean, you got to celebrate every one of those little victories when a child realizes that they've done something from their heart. They've done
Hmm.
something just because it's the right thing to do, because
Yeah.
that doesn't always happen. When it comes to the teachers, same goes. When somebody shows up just a little extra early and you recognize it and you notice those things, one of the things that I feel like is important is understanding not to be cliche, but to understand everybody's love language, because everybody needs to be celebrated differently.
Yeah.
And so I have to really work as a leader to know my staff so well that I know when it is appropriate to celebrate, when it's necessary to celebrate, and how to celebrate best. Because not every teacher wants to be the shining star that's put
Right.
up in front of everybody. Some just need a note of gratitude.
Yeah.
Some just need a pat on the back. And so I just try to figure everybody's thing out. Like, what's your thing? What makes you tick? And then celebrate those things when they're in front of me.
Yeah. That's awesome. I love that. That's a great approach, I think, too. Not everybody is Eric Aroca, right? I like the I'm like the shiny star, right?
Mm,
I don't want one of these, right? I want, hey, on the morning announcements,
yeah.
right? I want my name on the newsletter. I want an email. I want the whole thing. Okay, that's just
That's
how
why
I
you're writing a
am.
book, because you want your name on
That,
it.
exactly, exactly.
Yeah, yeah, I
Yeah,
got it.
a little vain. Okay,
It's
all right,
okay.
you caught
All right.
me. You caught me. That's all right. Yeah, I think that is all good stuff. And I think that when we take, as leaders, I think that when we take this approach to understand the people that we are leading, to say, hey, this person wants to be celebrated or acknowledged
Mhm.
in this way. Maybe they do just need a simple pat on the back. Maybe they just need an email. They don't want the fanfare. They want to go ride quietly into the sunset,
Mhm.
type of a thing. I think that's great. And I think taking that approach is meaningful because it lets us know that my leader gets me,
Mhm.
right? Like my leader understands who I am. I'm gonna take this off because I've had it on the whole time. Oh, cheesy. All right. So, and I think that's a wonderful approach to that. So I commend you for taking that approach. I think it works. And it works in every setting I've ever been in, whether it's education or corporate. It always works because people want to feel valued, they want to feel heard, and when you cater to how they want to be recognized and celebrated, it just adds to that, I
I mean,
think.
at the end of the day, it's how I want to be treated. So I
Yeah,
try really hard. I mean, the golden rule goes a long way, right? I
yeah,
try really hard to make sure that I am recognizing people the same way that I would like to be recognized as well.
yeah. So earlier this week, it might have been last week, I wrote a piece on LinkedIn, and it was on all of social media, so you guys can go check it out. But I talked about the importance of the lunchroom, right?
Hmm.
And I think, and one of the things that I like about your lounge or break room, whatever you want to call it,
Hmm.
is that it's inviting,
Hmm.
right? Like when I'm here, I don't want to go sit in my car
Hmm.
for my half hour lunch. I want to go into the lounge,
Hmm.
whether there's anybody in there or not. Like it feels welcoming, like it's a nice area, it's a nice space that you all have created. Um, so I think that there's a great deal of importance in making these spaces where teachers should be, because I think so many times teachers will just be like, hey, you know what? I'll just eat in my room,
Hmm.
right? And that's great if they want to eat in their room, but if they go to the lounge, if they go to the break room, it gives them an opportunity to socialize and get to know other teachers and to build relationships.
Right.
And I think as leaders, that is probably one of the areas that it's most overlooked is the break room.
Well, I think you also have to really think very, again, and not everybody operates this way. But I think you also have to think about that is that down space, right? And a lot, and I'm going to say probably almost every campus I've ever been on, it's been that space that's the complaining space. Like that's where the most negative comments. That's where we're talking. And I will have to say, because you brought it up, that I've never heard that happen in our lounge. That's never been the space. But we also try to make that a space that is associated with good things, and so if we're going to treat teachers in any way, we do that in that space. Our PTO is just methodical about making sure that space looks nice and is
Yeah.
pretty and is decorated. I do something super simple, but trust me when I tell you I needed it as a teacher. I keep bread, peanut butter, and jelly in the lounge at all times, because there's nothing like a great peanut butter and jelly sandwich. However, sometimes you just forget it. And
Yeah.
like teachers are like, oh, I don't have my lunch today. And yeah, DoorDash is a thing, and I get it, but they also don't have that much money. And so I just keep that stuff. I try to keep it in there. It's so cheap to do, but it makes it, again, it's just like going into your home. I typically, at just about any given time, I don't have anything else. I can grab the bread, the peanut butter, and the jelly.
Yeah.
And so it's just a reminder that this place is supposed to make them feel comfortable and welcome, and it needs to be the least amount of pressure. So we also try to just make sure that that is a very positive space. And I agree with you. I will say, one of the other things that I've noticed though is that our teachers, and we have the luxury of having the nice little pods here on our campus. Not every campus has that. A lot of times they are eating together like a
Yeah.
family.
Yeah.
They're not in their rooms. They're
Yeah.
not isolating. They
Yeah.
are definitely socializing and coming
Yeah.
together. So
Yeah. I think those pods areas are brilliant, really, really smart. Because initially I thought, oh, that's a great space for students, but no, in
our teachers
reality,
use them more.
it's the teachers use it quite a bit.
Yeah.
So great, I love that. I have often said that I can spend 20 minutes in any break room in any organization, and I can tell you all you need to know about your culture. And this has been a wonderful experience coming here. So you heard it from Principal Haugvoll that hey, you need to have bread, peanut butter, and jelly. That's a best practice right
Pretty
there.
easy. It's
I'm
pretty
thinking
cheap.
that might make it into the book too. I'm just saying that's a pretty good one. I like that one. All right. Let's switch gears just a little bit. Let's talk about the values. Let's talk about what are those principled values that Melton lives by, and how did you come up with those values?
It is exactly what I said. We are about our what we are asking students to do here is understand their ability to serve others in whatever capacity they're able to serve. We want them to um, optimize their learning every single day in whatever ability they have to optimize their learning. That could be making sure they complete their homework and come in with that done. That could be making sure that they are able to focus the best they can focus on the teacher. That could be how they engage in the work, and it's also in how they communicate with their teacher. Because if it's not working for them, they have to optimize their learning by going to the teacher and saying, "This is what's not working for me," or "This is what I don't understand." Um, we want them to accept responsibility for whatever the thing is. It doesn't matter. If we're asking them to bring things in for a food drive, then we want them to accept responsibility for giving. If they make a mistake, and gosh, we all do every day, right? We want them to know it's okay to accept responsibility for that mistake because we're going to learn from it, but you have to accept responsibility. You have to say, yes, I did that thing, and here's how I'm going to learn from that. Here's how I'm going to move forward. And then just respecting the people around us and what that looks like. And it spells out soar, and manta rays are the birds of the sea, and they soar above the water. And so, and then it also, because we like a good acronym in education, SOAR also means stand out above the rest, which goes to being the leaders, but manta rays lead the way. We want you to stand out above everybody. I want you to go out in public, and I want somebody in public to say, what elementary school did you go to?
Yeah.
Because they did a bang up job.
Awesome.
And so I think it's those things. Those are the values. We want service. We also, I mentioned our squads. Each one of our squads stands for something that we want to develop in our students. So we have our 6 different squads. Some campuses across the world or across the state call them, or country, houses. A lot of them call it houses. Yeah. Other people use different terms. We use squads because, again, did a little bit of manta ray research, and manta rays travel in squadrons. That's what they call like a school of manta rays. Okay. There's squadrons of manta rays.
Wow, we are learning. It's like science class. Okay.
And so our squads all also stand for something important. So we have the squad of Amistad, and they stand for love and friendship. We have the squad of Rever. They stand for ingenuity. And we teach the kids what these words mean. We have Anraka, stands for unity. And it goes, Altruismo is our squad of service. Our squad of courage is Isabendi. And Nukamori is our squad of respect. So again, character traits that are going to be so important to growing really good adults.
Yeah.
And so soaring and what our squads stand for, those would be the values that we want kids to walk out of here with.
That's amazing. I love that you guys have tied that to behavior, right? Because in my experience, that's what I experience when I come here,
Hmm.
right? So I heard a really great saying from a close friend the other day, and he said, "Words on the wall are behaviors in the hall."
Hmm.
Right? Like we take a lot of pride, and I see every school does this,
Hmm.
right? Every school will write the three R's, which are responsibility, no, responsible, what is it?
Respectful.
Respectful and ready,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
Or they'll write whatever
Whatever the
values
thing
or
is.
whatever is important to them. And they take a lot of time. I mean, they paint it on the wall really nicely. It looks very, just beautiful, very well done. But if that's where it stops,
Yep.
it doesn't do any good
Yep.
because those kids are not walking in the hall going, "Oh, that says responsible.
I'm going to
That
be
says
responsible.
respectful,
Yeah.
right? That says leadership." They don't pay attention to that, right? But those when you instill those values in them and you teach them what those words mean, and this is why it's important to us, then you make them they become leaders
Hmm.
in the community, right? And even within their peers, and I think that is very important. And so those words on the wall, as important as they are, really do become behaviors in the hall. And I think that's what we're trying to do, and that's what I think you've done really, really well here at
You have to take it
Melton
that step further,
Elementary.
and you have to recognize them too
Mhm.
when they're doing it. So you have to provide them that exemplar of, you are demonstrating this particular character trait when you are doing this thing. So when we
Yeah.
catch them doing those things, we celebrate that, and we call it what it is, so that they're also putting a very physical behavior with what we've conceptually taught them and the word that we've given them.
Yeah.
So we bring it all together.
Yeah. I often tell people if you want to move the needle when it comes to building culture, just start recognizing people
Hmm.
living the values
Hmm.
of your organization, whether it's a school, whatever it is. Recognize people in whatever the way they want to be recognized, right? Because we that's important.
Hmm.
But recognize them living the behaviors of that value because it's so easy for us to say, don't do this, you should be doing
Hmm.
this. Instead, what we should be doing is great job on being a leader. Hey,
Right.
great job of serving your fellow students or whatever the
Hmm.
value is. I think that has a huge effect, a more powerful effect, and it's immediate because other kids see it and they say, well,
Well,
so and so got recognized for being good or for doing whatever it was. Well, I want to be recognized
sure.
and so it's a snowball effect,
Hmm.
right? And it can be very, very quick, and it's the fastest way to move the needle when you're trying to build culture. So, just an FYI for all of you out there. Okay, excellent stuff. So how have you measured success in your school culture in this year and a half, almost, going into a year and a half now?
Um, gosh, have I done so? So the district does their own survey, and I don't. The survey is important. People actually have to fill out a survey in order for that to be really good source of data. I kind of just do it in my responsiveness. So, how many fires am I putting out on any given day? And I'd have to say that October of last year versus October of this year, a whole lot less,
Yeah.
right? So just in the amount of time that I'm able to really be devoted to being into classrooms and not in here making parent phone calls or trying to navigate through some situations that's happened. I mean, I kind of gauge it that way. Again, surveys are nice and it does give us some data, but like for example, our district survey last year, I think we had 71 out of 400 and some odd parents fill it out. Well, that's not going to give us the
Yeah.
right amount of data.
Hmm.
That's just a very small portion. And what you find is when you do a survey, the people who are the most unhappy and the most happy fill it out. It's that middle of the road
Yeah.
that you don't
They're
always
just like
get feedback
everything's
on.
good.
Yeah, yeah. So I think in my daily interactions with people, like really just gauging how is this parent, responding to us? How are the kids responding? And then just no news is good news. I
Hmm.
mean, when things are
To
just
some degree, that's
yeah,
very true.
when things are just kind of going and you're
Yeah.
not putting fires out, that's really how
Yeah.
I measure it. Don't have a really good measure.
Yeah. Oh, that's an honest answer. That's what I love, right? That's what we do on the podcast. So just be raw and authentic. I think that's great. So before we let you go, this has been a really great conversation, and I definitely want to use some of your best practices and just
Oh,
your
sure.
opinion, just your thoughts in the book, because I just think you're brilliant, and I think you've done such a
Thank you.
great job of building culture here at Milton Elementary. So my last question is, what advice would you give to other school leaders building culture? And keep in mind, there's probably going to be a handful of principals in
This
near
area.
near area who are going to be listening to this podcast. So, but for everybody else out in there, in the rest of the country, what advice do you have in building school culture?
I think that the best thing that a leader can do is be vulnerable and transparent. I think that one of the things that I discovered about leadership over the course of my it's about 23 years in actual administrative leadership, and in the course of that time, I used to think that a leader um, had to have all the answers. And now I think that a leader has to know how to surround themselves with people who have all of the answers. I had to discover that um, in myself, and I discovered it really late in my leadership. But teachers need to be able to see their leaders' vulnerability, because we don't make any less mistakes than anybody else. We don't have all the answers, and they need to know that up front. I don't have all the answers, but I'm going to get an answer for you.
Mm-hmm.
I have somebody who has it, and that's what they have to trust me to have is get them the answer, not necessarily have it. And then I also think it's important to be completely transparent. Um, People want to know when they're doing a good job, but people also want to know if they can do a better job. Most people don't think that that's the case, but teachers want to know that, and they want somebody who's going to tell them the truth and not sugarcoat things, and not. And again, you got to know people well enough to know how they're going to take feedback. But one of the things that I tell my teachers all the time is that feedback is such a gift. It is such a gift that is wrapped up with a beautiful bow when you choose to use that feedback for good. When you choose to understand that when you trust me enough that I'm I am in this I'm in this job, I am in this work with you. Um, Leadership is really not about being on top. It's about being the guide on the side.
Mm-hmm.
And I think when you're opening a school, when you're trying to become a new leader, you have to understand the importance of that transparency, that importance of that vulnerability, and letting people know the reason I'm in this position is just because I know how to guide people. It's not because I'm a manager. It's not because I'm more important. It's not because I'm better educated. It just means that I've dedicated my life to guiding others.
Yeah. Excellent. Well, I mean, you said the magic word, right? Well, actually, two magic words: transparency and vulnerability. And vulnerability probably trumps our podcast over most of the things that we talk about. We love vulnerability. And I love that you said, I don't have all the answers, but I know who does, or I know how to go and find that answer, right? And I think that when we are the leader and our staff realizes that, hey, she doesn't have all the answers, but maybe we're going to be relying on you to give her some of the answers, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because maybe someone on your staff, one of your teachers, has a really good idea, or they have the answer to whatever the situation is. And so by just listening to them and letting them know, I don't have all the answers, but I'm open to suggestions, I'm open to see what you have to say about it.
Mm-hmm.
I think that is a great way to lead.
Yeah.
So
Surround yourself with
impressed.
smart people.
Yeah.
Surround yourself with smart people.
Man, see that? Listen to that. That's another best practice.
Yeah.
Surround yourself with greatness.
Yeah.
By the way, that's a great book.
That is a great book.
So, Chad Lewis is the author. So, yeah, great stuff. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
This has been so great.
Thanks for including
So,
me, inviting me.
man, this has been awesome.
Appreciate it.
So, I am definitely going to bug you some more, probably after the first of the year or after the end of the year. And by the end of the year, I mean like December,
Okay.
right? So, but I'll definitely reach back out and
Okay.
we can talk about the book, and because I'd love to put some of your thoughts in there, and because I just think you're so well spoken, and you really have done an amazing job of building an amazing school culture. Um, here in our community. And I
It's a
love that
great
it,
community.
yeah, it really is. And I love that whatever, everything that you've built, I love that it has just, moved its way into all the different classrooms. And sometimes you just think, well, maybe it's just in one classroom. But hey, I've done pre-K. I haven't done pre-K here. I've done kinder, first, second, third,
Mm,
fourth, and fifth, right?
mm.
And guys, it is school wide. It is in every classroom that you go to. So very
And we're
well
not
done.
perfect, but we're okay with that. We're okay with getting
Yeah.
better every day.
Yeah.
We're okay with knowing that we're not perfect and that we're always going to be able to get better every day.
Yeah, I love that you're always shooting for
Mm-hmm.
perfection, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's not attainable, but you're at
Mm-mm.
least shooting for it. You're striving for it, and I think that's the most important thing. So,
Yeah,
thank you so much. It's
absolutely.
so great.
Thank you.
Principal Hogvoll at Melton Elementary. So remember, words on the wall are behaviors in the hall, and those are the things that help you drive winning cultures and to help you live the life you've always imagined.